Hi, I'm very excited about this video because it's a very deep, complex topic. So I feel unready to take on this very complex topic. And it has to do with the film Stalker and the book Roadside Picnic. I think a lot of you already know about the book and the film, but there are probably many that have never experienced Stalker or the Roadside Picnic. You could say that the setting for these stories is a sci-fi setting that poses many philosophical questions. I will have to give you the basic premise. This could be considered a minor spoiler, but I think pretty much everyone knows about that basic premise. Supposedly, these beings from some other place, aliens, whatever you want to call them, they came to our world and then they left. They call this event the visitation, I think, and they left many things behind. They visited several zones. You have Zone Russia, Zone Canada, Zone France, Zone Japan, I think. There is actually a tabletop role-playing game, a diceless tabletop RPG by the name of Stalker. I've only play tested that game, but I have yet to run a session or a campaign. I would love to do it one of these days. Let me know in the comments if you would feel encouraged to play a Stalker online tabletop RPG session for future consideration. So what's so special about that, right? When it comes to the name of the book, Roadside Picnic, there is a scientist slash philosopher in the book that proposes the following. What if the aliens had a roadside picnic? Our world was just like a stop before they went elsewhere. So someone gets to any place in the wilderness. Someone could have a picnic there. If you are very sloppy and a criminal, you would start to litter, right? You would leave behind your bottles and your perhaps some plastic plates and whatnot, any sort of trash. But these beings are so advanced that their trash, their garbage, is actually of great use to us, of extraordinary use. And that's just a theory. They never confirmed that that's what happened. But that's why the book is called The Roadside Picnic, because that's an interesting theory. And humans started to experiment with these devices, gizmos, artifacts in very primitive and clumsy ways. The same scientist, I think, or another character, if I remember correctly, he says maybe we are using a sledgehammer to crack a small nut, right? So perhaps they are using these different artifacts in ways that are just the tip of the iceberg on how you could use that artifact or device or machine. And what are stalkers? A stalker is basically someone who has been lucky and experienced enough to go into these zones, the different places where the visitations happened, and they know their way around those dangerous places. They are able to retrieve the various artifacts, discover some secrets, but those places are extremely deadly. Usually a stalker is someone who has reached rock bottom, someone that has perhaps no income, no hope in life. No, it's like the riskiest thing that you can do. Because not only is it illegal, that is, the authorities will catch you if you become a stalker. Unless some of them are actually paying you to find some things on the side in a clandestine or underground way. Stalkers could be considered criminals within the different law systems. So, putting aside that, the zones, because they have they have been touched or tainted by all sorts of alien energies and machinery. There are so many things that could kill you in the zone. There are strange beings. In the book, which could be considered the source material, they hint at so many things, almost like a Lovecraft short story. And sometimes in those stories, Lovecraft tells you about so many things, structures, beings, other dimensions or planes, spells, grimoires, but they just like hint at those things. You never get to fully experience those places, those beings. It feels like you only had like a small glimpse. And it's the same thing in the case of the book and in the movie, of course. The tabletop role-playing game goes pretty in-depth. It was developed with the approval of the surviving brother because this was written by two brothers, Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. And Boris is the only one who is still alive, the one of the two brothers that is still alive. There is actually a very interesting afterword in the back of the book telling you all of the difficulties. They tried to publish this in Soviet Russia, and of course there was so much censorship. They needed 8 years. It is actually a historical accomplishment or feat that they could publish this book under Soviet Russia. It took 8 years, mostly because of this evil group, let me find it, the Young Communist, where is it? Young Communists? It's something like the Young Communist Group, Young Communist League, and many others. The censorship that they put upon this book was ridiculous. Oh, somebody punched someone else? Violence. Oh, they drank alcohol. No. Oh, they said this insult. It's all about keeping people docile, like children. It's easier to dominate people with a kidult mindset when compared to adults that know about death and sex or violence as well. So it's all about control. The Strugatsky brothers had to go through some great ordeals in order to get this published. There is also kind of like these, how would you say, urban legends that were saying that they actually didn't want this book to be published because of the technology and the artifacts and the hints that perhaps, for example, in Chernobyl, there is something hidden there and they are scaring people with the radiation and whatnot because there is a secret. So, and there is that sort of like an urban legend charm to the book. But overall, what is most fascinating about both the book and the film, and I imagine the tabletop role-playing game, because like I said, I have never played a full campaign, is that you really undergo some sort of meditative, shamanic journey as you try to decipher or ponder the situations presented in both the book and the film. Let's talk about the film first, because I think it's the more popular way of experiencing this universe, this fictional universe. The curious thing about the film is that it is a masterpiece, but a lot of people, including myself, do not like it or enjoy it in the sense of the typical enjoyment or fun that you experience when watching a movie. If you want to watch something cool, like, oh, let's watch Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or anything, let's watch. Yeah, but just think about your favorite movie or series of movies or whatever. Stalker is not that sort of film. Let me mention the negatives first. It is so boring, so boring, so slow. A person in a comment section of a video about Stalker put it in a very funny way. He said something like, if you don't understand the message of Stalker, of the film, It looks as if you are watching three greasy guys moving through an industrial dump. Yes, and I completely agree. The thing that fascinates about the film, about the movie, is that the shots, in their slowness, instead of seeing the typical jump cut or cutting to this take and this other take, the camera moves very slow. So slow the entire shot until it gets right into the face of one of the protagonists. In order to avoid spoilers, I'm just going to give you like a basic, just like another basic premise of the plotline. In the film, you have a stalker and two other characters want to go into the zone. That's it. I will avoid saying anything else in order to keep this review spoiler free, or this video rather. In the case of the book, it's a bit more involved. The protagonist is also a stalker, but you also see the lives of many other people. But like a stalker, he is commissioned to take different individuals into the zone. And sometimes he also goes on his own or with a companion. Let's talk a bit more about the hazards of the zone before we proceed with the other parts thing about the film. The zone, as I said, it has been tainted with the artifacts, the alien energies, to the point that there are things that break your understanding of the laws of physics, biochemistry. There are things, that's where I was a bit disappointed. Or maybe that's also part of the world building. They still handle Gravy YouTube algorithm T as a real thing. Now some viewers are going to be thinking, what are you saying? Are you nuts? You fool. No. I'm going to put a link to a science fiction video in Odyssey where you can see the set that is being carried out. Funny enough, the stereotypical boomers. Now, some could consider my friend Rick a boomer. He's not an average guy. He knows what's going on. But the stereotypical boomer, if you present the video that I'm going to link in the description in a post, in a community post, if you present that video to the average boomer, they won't keep on watching it. Their mind is going to, they don't have that capacity. They don't have the intellectual capacity. Their mind goes blank. You tell them, okay, explain to me the green screen effects, the wires, the Hollywood special effects for the landing in science fiction. Explain to me the Photoshop. Explain to me the air bubbles in science fiction vacuum. In the science fiction, in space. I'm saying it like that because, like I said, the algorithm in outer space. Why are there air bubbles? Couldn't it be a swimming pool? Someone using a fairly large pool to film underwater? So like I said, I'll leave that to your discernment, to your consideration. Just check out the link. I think I'll put it in a comment, just in case it gets deleted or something. A comment, I'm going to pin a comment in the description. Okay, in the comment section. Here you have some things that basically squash you. And that's here, they call it the gravity, but it is rather density. Anything that is heavy is more dense than air. So that's why things drop. An interesting experiment in science fiction. Take a balloon, fill it 50% helium, 50% air, normal air. Put it in a room where there is no currents of wind or whatnot. Controlled environment. Let it stay there. Let it stay there. Check it out the next day. If where we are living in science fiction is actually turning, spinning, I have to say this because otherwise the video gets taken down. If it gets taken down, remember that it's also going to be available in Odyssey. If it's spinning, how come the balloon is still in its same place? And that's just one of hundreds of experiments that you can carry out I don't know all of them, but you can check out, like I said, the link in the description. There are several of those experiments, and using your logic and reasoning, please come on, don't get indoctrinated by the thing that they call science. That is not science. Science has to do with the scientific method. Finding out things for yourself. No, oh well, they told me this is how it goes in school and in the government, and those holograms over there, yeah, yes, that's the truth, because I am too dumb to not think that it is actually a hologram, right? Okay, moving on. Like I said, traps that could basically squash you in an instant. Other sections of the zone, they could incinerate you. Just like that. You step in the wrong place, oops, get incinerated. You may encounter strange beings, some floating entities that perhaps are not entirely hostile, but if you are in their way, they are not going to take another path. They are going to continue their path, and you're going to die if you stand in their way. So many things that you can encounter in the zone. So, on principle, the basic formula, you could think, oh, that sounds like a very exciting movie, right? But no. The film, they almost never show you anything about those effects. You can see the stalker throwing these metal nuts tied up with handkerchiefs. He tosses them in order to figure out if there is some sort of trap in a particular road or path that they are taking. Because if there is some sort of hit trap, the handkerchief is going to go in flames. If there is some sort of, like I said, density trap, the nut as the metal nut is flying through the air, it's going to get pulled down violently. And so that's why the stalker is constantly throwing these metal nuts with handkerchiefs tied to them, trying to figure out the traps. But because in the movie you barely see anything extraordinary when it comes to those supernatural things, to put them in a way, or yes, express that in a way. It's just three guys moving cautiously, but then they start to have this breaking the fourth wall monologues. They communicate some messages as they analyze their errors and triumphs in life. You start to compare those personal stories with your own personal story or history. There's a lot of symbology. In Spanish we call it simbología. Symbology, I guess you call it in English, symbols. Some people look at things and look, it kind of looks like a crown of thorns. It's a criticism against religion, Christianity. And someone else could say, no, don't you see when the movie is in black and white and then it turns into bright colors as they enter the zone, it is a metaphor of escaping Soviet Russia. And someone else could be saying, no, this is all about faith and spirituality. This is about believing in something, or feeling absolutely convinced that there is some higher purpose, or this is about virtue, this is about vice. I think that it's pretty much about everything. The movie sends out so many messages at the same time that could be interpreted in so many ways. And that's why it's going to be different for every person that watches that film. Stalker is a different movie for anyone who watches it. Kind of like those magical things in some fantasy stories where you look at a mirror and depending on what you carry on your inside, you look at the mirror and perhaps you see a monster, perhaps you see something beautiful, perhaps you just see yourself, but there is always a message there. So that's one of the major flaws when it comes to trying to approach the film Stalker. A lot of people that are not looking for that meditation experience, introspection, sort of analysis, they're going to be extremely bored. It's 3 hours of all of those things. Looking at the wilderness, looking at some industrial wreckage, a ruined tank, scummy waters. And that's one of the tragic things about the film. I'm going to put a link in the description to an excellent video where they tell you all about how almost all of the people involved in the film died because the site that they used for the filming, it was actually contaminated. So when you see the movie and you see those like yellow snow, almost like floating particles of huge pieces of dust or debris floating around, that is actually poison. And the actors, the director, everyone, they are breathing in all of that. And in some scenes, they actually have to go into the water because in the lore of Stalker or Roadside Picnic, in order for you to avoid deadly traps, let's say that you need to cross through a certain zone, through a certain part of the zone, and there is this water contaminated, it looks rusty with those like multicolored tones. You know that there is something harmful and chemical in the water when you see like a rainbow in the water, rainbow colors. But you know, because you are an experienced stalker, or you tossed your metal nut with the handkerchief, or you just have an instinct. You know that above the water there is something that could perhaps disintegrate your head. So sorry, if you want to go through that area as a stalker, someone that is not properly equipped, that cannot bring out state-of-the-art technology and equipment, you need to take a dive into those contaminated waters. And that's what the actors actually did. And most of them died because their bodies were affected by the chemicals. I think that was the first film where I got into the idea of how yucky it is to go waist deep into any sort of contaminated liquid. When you're a kid, you're like, oh yeah, and you're reading that pulp adventure. The hero goes into the sewer and the water is up to the waist, right? Down here you have two important orifices, the front and the back, and just imagining that there is a small chance that some of that water is going to go in there. That's pretty gross. So yes, those are the sorts of horrible situations that the stalkers go through. But like I said, the film is more philosophical. It also has to do a lot. For example, it was very popular in the occult circles because of the traps, the hazards, the dangers. You never take a straight route. You almost never take a straight route into your objective. So there are parts in the movie where the more inexperienced characters are thinking, look, there is the door that we need to take, and the stalker is no, wait. And they're like, but it's just there, just a few meters. It's right there. No, we need to go all the way around. Even if you have to walk 1 or 2 kilometers, take the long way. It is much safer than taking the direct route. This has to do, like I said, in the appreciation of occultists, this has to do with the Kabbalah, that you have the tree of life. Or like I said, this is also seen in other philosophies, like in Yggdrasil from Germanic mythology. The tree, it's much harder to climb it vertically than trying to zigzag across the branches. If you zigzag across the branches, it is much safer. It takes longer, but it is much safer. But if you want like a boost, like a speed burst, like a shortcut, and you want to keep going straight, climbing up vertically instead of like trekking from side to side, it's more challenging. So the people that are into occult philosophy, they think, oh yes, it's the perfect example of how sometimes in life you have to take the long route and discover other lessons along the way. Or some others could be thinking, Stalker is the perfect example that if you want to strive towards enlightenment, you need to go through the direct route, risking all of those dangers, risking losing your soul in the process. So this is just one of the many interpretations of Stalker. So many interpretations. The film. Like I said, I want to avoid saying anything else, but because it's really going to spoil the movie. But now let's talk about the book. I actually like the book a bit more, but it's still kind of like that. The thing with the book is that you actually see those supernatural things happening. The movie it is not exactly low budget, but it is not like the most expensive movie ever made. But I wonder if they had more budget, would they have been interested in showcasing the more incredible things in Roadside Picnic? Because they are two separate stories. They have some similarities, but they are very different. In the movie, it's in Zone Russia, and here is Zone Canada. Both of the protagonists are quite likable in the sense that they are very imperfect. They are not paragons of virtue. They are people that have problems with alcohol. Their children have been affected by the energies of the zone. Because if you're constantly moving in those environments, who knows what sort of radiation is affecting your body and your seed that goes into your child. Your child is the result. That's why I always tell people, be mindful of what you're putting into your body. If you want to have kids, sometimes the children do, oftentimes, I would say all the time, the children inherit the sins of the parents. So you see these people, these stalkers, trying to do the best that they can. They sometimes try to live a normal life, but for one reason or the other, they simply cannot do it, and they go back to stalking. Sounds weird, right? Stalking like stalker. But no. The book actually gives you a really good example of how even with the best technology available, people still die. So you see, that's why I like the book more. You see two perspectives, two angles. The professional stalker that has the permission from the government to go and stalk, and the more clandestine stalker that needs the money, is avoiding the authorities and avoiding the dangers of the zone. I think that would have been an amazing thing. Imagine if you had this scene where the stalkers were actually being chased into the zone by the police or soldiers, and they could actually try to use their knowledge of the zone to make their pursuers fall into different traps. That's excellent for the tabletop role-playing game, because you do have some examples of a stalker employing things that he pulled out of the zone for his or her own advantage. For example, there are some things that produce terrifying sounds that, imagine the Aztec death whistle, but augmented who knows how many thousand times. There are substances that can pretty much consume a human in a matter of seconds, completely devour the human. So imagine all of those things. Of course, the different organizations, corporations, the government, in this science fiction, they commission the stalkers to go into those areas to retrieve those objects and use them for their own benefits. But in the other side, in the other perspective, you have the illegal stalkers that are pulling out those artifacts in order to sell them or use them for their own devices, for their own plans. The two movies actually share a similarity. I think this could be a major spoiler, but what if there could be something that could be like a genie's lamp, the typical like 3 wishes? It's not exactly that, but I'm handling it like this to avoid the spoilers. But what if those wishes, they had more to do with what you really wanted as opposed to what you think you want, or that you think you want to wish for? Those are some other philosophical questions in this book. The book, compared to the film, gives you a lot more about the world, like I said, the lives of people inside and outside of the system. I also like the time skips, because as a stalker, it's quite obvious that you could end up, someone could put you in jail, and then you will have to wait several years in order to fulfill your sentence, and perhaps you want to go stalking again. So there are many strange things happening, many strange happenings occurring. So I really recommend that you watch both the film and the book, but if you're going to watch the movie, watch it in a philosophical way, in a meditative state. Don't go with your friends and, hey, let's watch a really fun movie and bring some snacks and we're going to have fun. No, no. You want your bohemian intellectual pals. Would you care to experience a journey into the deepest corners of your mind and your heart? Then watch Stalker with me, you know. The book is easier to digest. There are some very fun, even action-packed moments. It's very interesting to see how the stalker, Red, that's his nickname. All of the stalkers have nicknames. Red, he exhibits or showcases that a stalker not only has to rely on experience, on intelligence, logic, common sense, he also has to rely on a certain intuition, instinct. So imagine taking the modern day soy boy that swallows everything that has been fed by the governments, religions, corporations, intelligence agencies. He has all of that swallowed up. That's his religion. That's true because the scientists told me so. He goes into the zone and he's going to end up dead immediately. Dead. They actually give you several examples of people that were too careless. That, well, I'm going to bring this device into the zone, and there's actually something that affects that device, and through that device, it affects you. So that's why these stalkers never go into the zone with high tech. And like I said, even they give you an example when using the best state-of-the-art technology, and they still fail. So the stalker usually goes into the zone, no weapons, just a few metal nuts tied up with handkerchiefs that he's going to be retrieving as if his life depends on it, because if you run out of those things, yes, he's very cautious, follows that je ne sais quoi, gut instinct, intuition that something's not quite right. I don't know what. I have no way of saying what it is, but I need to get out of here right now, or I need to duck, or I need to hide because something is coming. I think there could also be some hints that the stalkers, as they grow older, they may actually get affected by the energies of the zone to the point that perhaps they develop some sort of awareness, or even physical, how you say, enhanced physical performance. Because some of the stalkers are, like I said, they have not the best physical condition, but when required, they do some pretty extraordinary things. I think they were affected. They even mentioned that, one of the characters mentions, and he like bursts or exploded into this, and he started doing this and that. So I really recommend that you read the book, watch the film. The tabletop role-playing game, from my initial, how you say, superficial appraisal, it is also really good, but it is diceless. You need to feel comfortable with diceless systems. Like I said, one of these days I hope I can run it. Let me know in the comments if you would be interested in that. Maybe when I finish either the Dungeons and Dragons campaign and the Infinity's Edge campaign that is about to begin today. It's going to begin. Perhaps after any of those campaigns, maybe I will have the chance to run a Stalker campaign. Well, I hope you found this video informative, entertaining. Definitely check out the link that I'm going to put in the pinned comment. A lot of people won't be able to handle it. A lot of people won't be able to handle it. But definitely check it out. Now, people that are, well, yes, how you say, more aware of things. Tyler, Rick, they already know the truth. Do you want to know the truth? Check out the video in the comment, in the pinned comments. As always, thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. And remember, there is no place for stupidity in tabletop role-playing games, unless you are role-playing as a stupid character. See you later.